So to get started with this assignment, you're going to need to go onto your iPad and go to self-service and download the app called Tayasui Sketches. You can also do this on a mobile phone if you want to. All right, so next you're going to open up the camera app on your device, iPad or phone, and get someone to model for you. This could be anyone. It could be your cat, it could be your sister, it could be your mom, whoever you want. Get someone to stand and let you take their photograph. This is Sophie being ridiculous. But snap a couple of shots that you have a lot of options when you go through to kind of decide what scene or what face or expression you want to use as your template. Then you're going to go through and you're going to edit your picture by opening up your photos, find the picture that you want to use. There will be a lot of them there, hopefully, if you shot a lot. All right, and then you're going to go ahead and go up in the upper right-hand corner and click on Edit. And they're going to have this scene pop up in the bottom middle. There are all of the filters. Go ahead and go to Mono. I know we've done this before, so this should be a review. And then you're going to go ahead and enhance by editing. I want you to bring up the highlights as bright as they can be. And then I want you to bring up the shadows as very dark as you can get them so that you have extreme contrast. And then lastly, I want you to enhance the contrast so it's really aggressive. Now we're going to go ahead and import our picture into Sketches. And you're going to want to make sure that you do that by opening up the layers on the upper right-hand corner of Sketches. I actually had a picture there I removed, but open up the layers and go to the bottom layer. And then the three dots in the top of the scene, there's an arrow with a down button. That's where you can add a photo. So go ahead and navigate over to select the photo and add it. All right, and then finally, make sure that you're working on the next layer up, so you're not working on the photo layer. And then you're just gonna go ahead and choose a detailed brush, and you're gonna start tracing and coloring in anything in your photo that is dark or black. All right, you will have to simplify some of your drawing as you go, but anything that is dark or black, you're gonna wanna make sure that you kind of color in. And again, you're doing this on a separate layer because eventually we're gonna get rid of the photo layer underneath. So as you go through, color in all of the dark areas, and then just make sure that nothing that and basically these are the areas you're going to cut out if you were to put this into a pumpkin. So you do want to make sure that these areas that they're either connected to one another to make it one piece that you're cutting out, or that they're not too narrow or too skinny. You can kind of deviate and mess around with it a little bit to make it a little bit easier. But remember, the black areas are the parts that you're going to cut out. Okay, so once the drawing is complete, you're going to go into the layers palette and you're going to turn off the sight of the photo layer. And then all you're going to have left is the picture that you've drawn, that you've traced. From here, save your work, give it over to your photos section just to save the image, and then you're going to turn that in. All right, everybody, so this portion of the project is absolutely optional. You don't have to do this, okay? But if you want to, it'll be cool if you do. So you're going to start out by printing out your template. Now, you might have to do this in a lot of different ways. I have my printer connected to my cell phone. You might not. You might have to email it to yourself and then print it through your home computer or something like that. Just make sure that it is the size that you want to carve it. That's going to be really important. If it's too small, it won't really show up on your pumpkin. Okay, so the supplies that you're going to be needing for the pumpkin carving portion of our project is basically like a spoon or a scoop. If you have one of the kits from the grocery store or the Dollar Tree, you can certainly use one of those, but if you don't, you have basic supplies at home that will allow you to cut out a pumpkin and carve it. Okay, so I put out a spoon. I also have one of the kits, so I have like this scooper spoon that has like a little bit of a serrated edge, which is pretty helpful when you're trying to scoop out the pumpkin seeds. You're also going to need the printed template that you've created. You're gonna need some tape. Then you're gonna need either like a push pin or a poker. Sometimes the kits have like a little poker in it, but push pins work perfectly fine. You're gonna need a bowl to put all of the pumpkin guts into, and you're gonna need a knife. I also find that you're probably gonna need a pair of scissors and a pen. And that's pretty much everything that you're gonna need for carving a pumpkin with a template. Okay, so once you are ready to begin, you're going to take your template and you're going to start to kind of figure out where it should go on your pumpkin first, and then you're going to go ahead and start to kind of clean out your pumpkin. So cut the lid out and scrape off the pumpkin seed pieces, and then take the spoon and go ahead and start scraping the inside of your pumpkin. And I just put all of this into a bowl because I'm going to roast these pumpkin seeds later today, which is exciting. It'll make my house smell so good. If you've never done that, you should try it. Anyway, so scoop out all the guts of your pumpkin, put it into the bowl, or if you're not going to roast them, put them in the trash can so that you're ready to go. Then you're going to take your template, cut around it to make it a little bit easier to work with, and then you're going to just tape it directly to your pumpkin, all right? And just kind of decide, I'm putting mine a little close to the edge because I want to be able to see her face once I carve it out. I don't want it to be like looking down. All right, then you're going to go ahead and take your poker or your push pin, and you're going to go around the entire border of your artwork by pushing. And I would do it really close together to make it really easy when you go to draw this. So you're going to put little tiny holes next to one another, kind of outlining the work that you've done. This is just basically a transferring method. And then once you've gone around the entire template, just verify that you don't have any pieces that are missing. It's the worst when you remove your template before and you realize, oh my gosh, I forgot to poke holes in this little section of it. So just make sure that you have the entire template and you've poked holes to kind of outline all of the artwork that you have. And once you're done, you're just going to remove the template, and you're going to take a ballpoint pen and you're going to go over and kind of trace out and draw in, tracing over your dots that you've poked in, tracing out your template. And I like to reference my template as I'm working just to make sure I have it as accurately as I can. You might find that you'll need to simplify when you actually do carve it, which is totally fine. But while you're working on this portion, if you can be as detailed as possible, the result is going to be that much better. So go through with your pen and just kind of draw in the sections that you've already pre-marked. All right, and then once you have gone through and you've drawn it, that's when you're going to start to carve it out. Now, the best tip I can give you is to start in the inside where those details are. Start with those. If you start with the giant sections like the hair in mine, you will not be able to carve those little tiny pieces because the pumpkin has at that point become really like flexible. You'll see when I take the hair out that the face is almost standing on its own. The only place that it's still connected is in her neck area. So you won't have the resistance or capability if you don't start in the little spots. So start with those really tiny details in the middle of the face. Carve those out first. Once you've gone through, and don't freak out, like if you make a mistake or something doesn't kind of carve out the way that you drew it, just do your best. In the end, it's still gonna look really cool. Okay, so go through, get all of those little tiny pieces out. And then when you get to start carving out the areas that are close to those little areas, do those first. So you'll see that I'm starting along the edge, the interior edge of her face, while I still have resistance, right? So I'm starting around the inside of the face. And then once I've got the inside carved out, then I move to the outside. So areas that are close to places you've already carved out become really weak and your pumpkin will fall apart. So do your best to start with those areas first. That way you have resistance, and then start to carve out those larger areas. So you can see I'm pulling all of the hair out at this point. If you need to use any toothpicks to kind of fix anything that you've done, you can do that too. It's a nice tip to be able to kind of repair that. The last thing you can do is just clean up the marks if you have any. Okay, and the final result, here is the original photograph that we used, turned into a template that we have sketched and basically created ourselves and carved into a pumpkin. This is what it looks like in light, and this is what it looks like when we turn the lights out with a light inside. And there is a pumpkin contest coming up. And so this is actually being hosted by ASB. So I think you guys have an advantage of being able to create your own template and turn in a super creative pumpkin. It's actually ironically due the same day as our project on October the 30th through Canvas. So you can submit it to me and you can submit it for the decorating contest and do something super unique and creative. Have fun.